Okay, now I'm recording. Um, so let's kind of I want to hear everyone's, if you haven't done the assignments, that's okay. I'm going to give you a moment to do it now. The first Zoom call 2 weeks ago, we really talked about clarity of self, meaning like really recognizing what, you know, who you want your future self to be, or how do you want to show up as. You're still you, we're not changing anything about you, but we're always in a mode of self-improvement, etc. So those three adjectives of how you want to show up in the world. And the examples or the exercise that I gave you was to think of a situation, a typical situation. How did you show up in that situation? Sometimes that can give us clarity and like, oh, I could fit, this, I would really love to show up as this, or I would love to show up as this. Like one of my things is patience. Patience is an intentional thing I have to intentionally focus on with my kids. And so that's one of my words, is patient, because that's an area that I have to work on. So because there's many times that I don't show patience. There's sometimes that I do show patience. But so have any of you thought about what those three words or those adjectives of things that you want to show up in the world on a consistent basis? Anyone want to share? Mine's patience, grace, and I can't remember what the third one is off the top of my head. I should know off the top of my head, but patience and grace are always the top two in my head.
For me, it's grace, peace, and flexibility.
Flexibility, I love it. Talk to me about flexibility. What does that look like and feel like?
That looks like when my kids aren't ready on time, I don't lose my mind.
Yeah.
When I'm trying to get out the door, we're going to, example, we were on vacation last week. I was at my mom's. We're headed to the beach. And I just want, I always have, my day planned out. This is the time we're going to leave, and I'm very rigid. I want to leave on time, and no one was ready. So and my mom even mentioned it. She's like, I don't like to be rushed around, but I was totally rushing people. So I have to work on allowing, we're on vacation, there's just no rush.
Mm-hmm.
But I constantly feel like let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just being like, okay, of course, if I don't rush people or give people a little push, we'd rather get anywhere. But I have to.
So is that your fear that things wouldn't get done? Things wouldn't get
if
you don't?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. What's that feeling like when you're like, oh my gosh, look at the time? What does it feel like to you?
It's very stressful.
It's stressful.
Yeah.
And it's probably stressful for them too. So figuring out a happy medium of being able to be flexible, but also set expectations.
Yeah.
And follow them within reason. Obviously there's some grace period with some things. I think that would be a reasonable expectation. So you're not super rigid one way or the other, because right now you're kind of on the rigid end of expectations, which is totally fine. I'm kind of that way too in some respects. And then, but you also don't want to be like willy-nilly about it. I think it's totally acceptable to have expectations, even when you're on vacation, like you're ready to go have some fun. But recognizing that, you want to have positive feelings all around. At the end of the day, like you said, peace is important to you, and grace. So obtaining peace and grace kind of goes hand in hand with flexibility, being able to recognize, oh, this doesn't feel very good right now, but how can I set up the stage for everybody so we can all meet all of our needs, which is, you like to be on, have some sort of schedule so that you can do all the things. I think that's reasonable. So I like that. So how can you remind yourself of those things? What are some ways that you can keep it? I mentioned in the last call, I have a big sign in my kitchen that says grace. I have something on my phone that kind of reminds me of some things. For a period of time, I did the alarm clock on, oh, my phone. It's being funny. I would have an alarm clock go on my phone that said peace and breathe, because sometimes I would, just kind of trying to do a check mark of all the things that I needed to do. My phone is making my computer talk. And so that's some things that I do to remind? Are there some ways that you can remind yourself of those things in a subtle way? If you don't know, it's okay, because I'm gonna have some ideas later on.
I can't think of anything right now,
Okay.
but I gotta figure something out.
But what I like is that you knew right off the top of your head. So it's at the forefront of your head. But I think it's important to also have reminders daily for us, especially when we're in hard moments. When we're in stressful moments, the first thing that goes is like thinking all those things that we know that we expect or we want, or our desires or our wishes, or all those things kind of go out the window in a stressful situation, or when you're frustrated with your kid, or you're trying to get out the door to get to a doctor appointment or whatever, and everyone's lollygagging, or getting off to school, those kind of things. So sometimes having those reminders when you're least expecting it can be helpful. So we'll talk about that in a little bit too. And okay, so we'll get on to the next question in a minute. So Lori, I know we talked about it in the last call, but remind me what were the 3 words that you had kind of identified, if you can remember. Whoops, let me unmute you.
I'm muted.
Oh, sorry. We're doing it at the same time. Sorry about that.
That's fine. I honestly, I don't know where exactly my notes are. It's been a heck of a week, and I don't even know. I think it's Wednesday, so I feel like I'm closer to Friday, so that's good. But I can't remember what my 3 words were, but I know I talked about patience and about about family dynamics.
Yeah.
Those were some big things that I was going to work on, and my own mindset around that, and realistic expectations.
I'm trying to check my notes to see if I jotted it down, because sometimes I jot it down. Okay.
I know I have it somewhere, and so what I ended up doing is I ended up today getting a binder that I'm putting all of my coaching stuff in, because
cool.
I'll just grab a pad of paper and write some, you know what I mean, and then I'll find it not so easily.
Right. And I think that, especially like in the fields that all of us are in, like I'll go to professional development and I do some really cool stuff and I write it down, and then it goes in a notebook and gets put away. What I'm proposing is that we take some of the key things that we learn and find a way that it's present to us. You know what I'm saying? And not put away. I think it's great to have a binder. Don't get me wrong. I have a binder that I write all my stuff down, but to keep it in the forefront somehow. So that's because sometimes we all have the best of intentions. We'll get in and we'll go on a call, or we'll whatever. Even sometimes we have a really great day and we're like, I'm going to do all the things. And then the next day comes and something happens, and then it all goes out the window. So, so that's kind of like what I'm wanting for you guys.
Yeah. And I found it.
Oh, good.
So, but I didn't have words. I didn't whittle it down to words. It was just continuing on the same path with the kids, and just continuing to shift my mindset, focusing and maintaining my self-care and connecting with my husband.
Awesome. So self-care, connection, and I know you've been really working on relationships with your kids, intentional relationships, or, I don't know what the word might be for that. But like thinking of how you want to show up in those situations.
Yeah.
Connection's a big one though. I mean, like really fun, because I think thinking back in the conversations we had, that connecting piece seemed to be a theme. And you connect with each person differently, really listening and hearing what they're showing up as. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Seemed to be kind of a theme when you talked about all your family members.
Yeah.
So, all right, awesome. Nicole, did you think about those things by chance? You had a long week. She had surgery last week. So she was knocked out on probably some pain meds for a little bit, right? Let me unmute you.
Yeah. I had put patient, thoughtful, and kindness.
Awesome. So that's the person you want to show up as. Okay. So thinking about those words that you guys all identified, one of the assignments I had you guys think about is just one activity, one small thing you could do to shift your behavior in that direction. And so if you've done it, great, share. If you haven't, that's okay too, because we're all work in progress. So did anyone identify anything in particular that they wanted to work on, a small behavior change?
In the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, take the time. And that is usually reminding me to slow down or think about it or shut up and listen.
Okay. So you've created a some sort of behavior pattern where you're able to remind yourself.
Yeah.
Take the time. It's kind of like your trigger word. Take the time.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. I like that. And it seems to help. Okay. Awesome. And so when you say take the time, is it like, what do you tend to do? Do you just take a deep breath? What happens next?
Yeah, mostly just slow down and realize what it is I'm doing or saying or thinking and slowing it down.
Okay.
Because do I really need to be saying it right then, or should I just be listening right now?
There we go. I like that. Ding, ding, ding. Sometimes that's a big piece of it, is really listening and hearing what's happening. Absolutely. And I can relate to that because oftentimes, and I've talked about it in previous calls before, I'll find myself, my body's physically tense and I'll notice it. And I have to intentionally relax the muscles and just take a deep breath. And it allows me to just like slow down. It's almost taking a mini meditation moment. It's retraining your brain to focus on one thing. I think we're so trained in our society to think of 17 things at the same time. And it's so bad for our mental health.
I realize that now that I've been on the couch for this long.
Oh my gosh.
I'm still thinking of the 33 things and I can only do one.
It's hey, everything happens for a reason. I really believe that. And maybe it's God's way of saying, I really want you to focus on one thing at a time. He really wants you to take care of yourself right now.
I guess so.
So that's just my perception of it. But yeah. How about either one of you, Lori or Jen?
I just kind of said the same thing. Like I need to slow it down and I need to think before I speak.
Okay. And slowing down, is that taking a deep breath? Is it literally zipping the lips and listening? Is it just stepping away from a situation, coming back? What does it look like for you?
I think for me, it is like stepping back from like situations or whatever, just to kind of like think logically on it before I speak emotionally on it, whatever topic, whether it be with my kids or at work, just to get the logic behind what my feelings and thoughts are. Mm-hmm. And then I can address it in a more rational, graceful, and peaceful way.
I love it. And I also, the other thing that helps me is that I try to think of how are they going to receive it. If I want them to really hear what I'm trying to say, they need to receive it with an open heart, and they can't receive it if it comes across a certain way. It comes across like emotionally when something happens and you react off the cuff.
Right.
So it's that same kind of thing. So it's being able to present it in a way where they can hear it a little bit better. It's helpful. That's the way I think of things, though. So just awesome. Okay. So we've all kind of talked about. Lori, did you have anything to add on that? I'm sorry.
Oh no, I agree with everything that was said, and I just think for me it is that pause, like just to take a pause in the moment and think, okay, how do I want to respond to this? Mm-hmm. And it's typically with my family.
Yep.
So
Same
like
with
just
me.
stop and just think, okay, how do you want to play this out in your mind?
Absolutely. So, we've talked about like a lot of the things, how we want to feel, being intentional, all those things. So what we're going to start shifting towards is passions, our passions in life. And it doesn't have to mean like a passion project of sorts. It doesn't have to be like my life coaching business, for example. It can be, but it might not be. It might just be like your passions in life. And the reason that I want to bring this up is because just having a zest, the best word I can think of is a zest for life. I think is important, and so I want to shift our attention now to identifying kind of like our passions in life, or maybe there are things that you have down the road that you want to accomplish in life. We've talked about what are some things you dreamed about before but never came to fruition. What are some things that you have dreamed and they have come to fruition, and then kind of marrying the two and figuring out, where are you at with that? What are things that really matter to you? And also we'll be working towards sifting out the stuff that really doesn't. And I think we've kind of been doing that for a long time. But so one thing that I really want to, before we move forward, I did a live video yesterday or the day before about, if you are trying to, oh, I feel someone's breaking into the room. Hi, buddy, you're home.
I got some donuts.
Oh, look at that. Donuts. I was just about to talk about health, and he brings in donuts. Did Papa buy you these?
Yeah.
Well, go put them in a safe spot, okay? Okay.
You could have some.
Thanks, buddy. I'm on a call right now. Can you shut the door and put the donuts up high so the dog doesn't get them?
Hubby, come.
He went and helped paint. My sister just moved into a new house. Well, she hasn't moved yet, but Cole went and helped paint. Apparently my dad bought him donuts. Anyway, so, okay, so what I was going to talk about is what I talked about on the call the other day, or the live video I did the other day, which had to do with when we're trying to start something, whether it's exercise or nutrition, or it's getting up early in the morning. Yeah, here, take it. You might need to charge it, but, to be able to do something that we've associated with as like, oh, I don't want to exercise. Oh, I don't want to wake up 20 minutes earlier. Oftentimes we associate pain or pleasure with various activities, and motivation truly comes from avoiding pain or trying to gain pleasure. And that's what I talked about in the live video. And so just kind of keep that in the back of your mind as we move forward in when we sort of recognize what our passions are, because sometimes our passions are something that feels like it could be really like, arduous, or something that we're, not sure how to go about. So keeping that in mind, that motivation really is something derived from avoiding pain or gaining pleasure. So I wanted to put that out there first. So the other thing that I want us to recognize is that we have the capacity to change how our emotions about a variety of different things based on how we associate ourselves with that situation. So we have the power, no matter what, in any given situation, we can make a positive association with something or a negative association. And a lot of times our beliefs about different things are often just something we've associated in the past or something we've been told in the past. And so, right or wrong, it's just the way it is. And so that's important to recognize the power we have over ourselves. And I think sometimes we tend to forget that we have a lot of power in being able to change behaviors, or recognize that, hey, I have this dream that I've thought about since I was a kid to be a writer, and really do have the power to do that if you really wanted to. You'd have to figure out a plan of action. But the point is that we have a lot more power than we give ourselves credit for a lot of the time. And so want to also kind of plug that in to keep in the back of your mind as well. All right, so when we talk about clarity of like a passion or just understanding your passions in life, there's a few things that I want you to kind of keep as, I don't want to say criteria, but it will fit in. You'll know it's a passion of yours if it's something that is quote unquote worth the climb. So it's if a mountain, we've talked about if it's something that's challenging, but to you it seems worth the wait or worth the climb or worth your while. If it's something that has meaning and purpose to you and provides a meaningful outcome to you, obviously that's a passion. Okay. And again, linking it something, when we link it to something positive, it tends to be a passion. Obviously something that gives you enthusiasm. We've talked about that fire inside, that enthusiasm. It is definitely a passion of yours. Now, one of my passions is I love going to my kids' sporting events. And so this is an example of a smaller passion, not like a big grand passion of my life coaching or my Beachbody business or anything like that. I'm talking about like I love going to my kids' sporting events. So I like to make it a really positive experience for everyone when we go. And so that's an example of a passion in my life, is creating like a family atmosphere when we're at my daughter's volleyball game or my son's baseball game or basketball game or whatever. And so that's just me. So that's part of one of the passions of my life, is just having that. So that gives you a little bit of an example of that. And then something that connects you to others. So those are the things I want you to keep in mind when we talk about passion. So before we move on to moving forward with this passion, do you guys have ideas of what your passions are? Lori, I know you've shared a little bit last week with your family and what your desires are for your family, and that cohesive unit, and making it a place where where your kids want to come home to on a regular basis, like it's home to everybody. And you can add in more as well. But do you guys have any off the cuff things that you feel is a passion in your life, whether it's a big passion or something that's, like the family example I gave you?
Caring for others, like helping others, is a huge passion for me, and that encompasses family and work. So, yeah, I mean, making sure my kids grow up to be decent human beings is a very huge passion for me.
Somehow I gotta mute it.
There we go. You got it, Nicole. So caring for others is hugely important for you, and that goes in a variety of capacities within your nursing and your family, and so kind of it sounds like every area of your life that's really important to you. That's awesome, and that's something that you want to keep. Jot it down somewhere I want to narrow down like 3 to 5 passions, and one of the assignments is going to be to develop a passion list. But what are some other passions? Do you have any others that pop at the top of your head? Like the perfect life for you right now would include? Whether you have it already right now or you don't, it doesn't matter. Either one is fine.
I think another passion, well, it's not in my life right now, but I would really like to be used more at church, like speaking in women's groups and like that kind of thing. So I've started to, if I get a thought, like I feel like, okay, that was definitely from God, because I know that wasn't for me, I write it down really quick, so that when an opportunity should arise for me to be able to do that speaking, I can refer to that, like with a little notebook and pull up, oh yeah, God spoke to me, I'm going to talk about this or whatever. So that's something I would like to do in the future.
Right. And there's a time for everything. So this is not to create our to-do list to make it larger by any means. So there's a time and a place for all the things that we're talking about. It might be something like when the kids are grown, you know what I mean? Like things to get involved. So being involved with your church in a spiritual, being some sort of a spiritual leader in some ways, which you are at home, because I know you lead well at home with your kids. You really work on that. So, but that's important to you. Your spirituality is important, and being able to pay that forward. Maybe that's the way to put it. And right now it looks different than it might in 10 or 15 years. It might look different in 15 years. So perfect. Those are great examples. Nicole or Laura, do you have anything in particular that you want to share?
It's interesting, the church piece. I used to be much more engaged, I would say, in like volunteerism in my church. And so that has had to fall off a little bit just because of the sheer number of people in my family. And it was just easier. It was easier to give that time earlier. So I also feel like that's something that long-term could come back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I also, like, for me, I enjoy running. I would love to get back to running more. That's another thing.
It's a passion of yours, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And again, like the church thing, it's a time, there's seasons, as the word I was looking for, seasons of life. that we go through. And it's not to create a sense of guilt or, oh, I can't do this. I wish I could do this. It's not to do that. It's just to always recognize what's important to us. And we have different seasons of life where different things take a forefront. You know, obviously, all of us have relatively young kids on this call. And, you know, obviously they're always going to be a priority over doing things necessarily outside of the home all the time. But it's important to recognize what's important to us. It keeps kind of like our individuality as women important and at the forefront, so we don't lose a sense of who we are, and finding different ways that we can do those things at different capacities. Maybe for you, Lori, it's running. You're not going to run as frequently as you'd like to in the future, but being able to do find different times. Right now you're in a really busy job, but there might be different seasons of the year that you might be able to, you know, go take a mental break and go for a jog or whatever. In the summertime it might be a little bit looser. Things like that. And then obviously later on in life when the kids are grown, you'll have a little bit more time. But I always say that too, like I've done 2 half marathons in my life. And when my kids are grown, one of my bucket list items is to run a marathon. I'd like to do that at some point, but it's not in my, it's a lot of time right now. Yeah, I don't have. So, but it doesn't mean it's not important to me. It's just not now, not right now kind of thing. How about you? Oh, I can tell Nicole's talking. I'll get back to her. So what I want to bring up to just kind of get the creative juices flowing, because what we are, I'm going to have you create a passion list, and I'll explain that in a minute, is to recognize that passions, as I said before, can be things that we're already engaging in, but it might mean you're not. You know, sometimes it's untapped things that we haven't even scratched the surface on. It's getting in touch with more of who we really are. You know, one of the first questions I had you do a couple weeks ago was, who are you? It's tapping more into that, diving deeper into that, because we are all so individual that we can't have generic answers. We're so, every single person on this earth is so specifically different from the next. And I think we, as a human race, haven't even scratched the surface to what we're capable of. And so what I am challenging you all to do is scratch it a little bit further, to recognize that there's so much more to us than we recognize. I'm going to push you a little bit on that. And that sometimes thinking can be a disservice to us. And that when we're trying to figure out our passions, sometimes actions can be the thing that helps us recognize what our passions really are. So for example, you're like, I'm not sure if I really like this, or I'm not sure if this is really my passion or not. Do it. Go do it. Then it becomes obvious to you, is this something that matters to me? You know what I mean? So that action versus overthinking things. So I want to caution overthinking.
The high school discount.
Oh, I can hear Jen in the background. All right, I'm gonna mute her. And so I want to caution you not to overthink things. So this is really important, not to overthink. It's just do, think, just like, okay? So that's one thing I want to say. And I want you to take out the head thinking and bring it down to the heart thinking. Okay, so try to think less with your head and more just with your heart, where your heart's leading you. And really the goal is we're taking steps to do things that we love daily, that making our days filled with things that we love to do, that makes our heart smile and makes us feel alive. And the third thing, this is a really good tip that I think would be a great thing for you to just ask yourself every morning when you wake up: what can I get enthusiastic about today? If you ask yourself that question, that's going to provide some clarity for you as well. And some focus to help you be intentional too. Like, what can I be enthusiastic about today? And don't make it generic. Oh, I get to go to work today, or I get to go out to dinner tonight. Make it super specific. And that's going to provide some clarity for you. What really gets you excited about that? You know? So for example, I have a friend coming over tomorrow. one of my coach friends. She's come over with her kids. So obviously that's something I'm excited about. But what I would challenge myself in the morning, Jen, hi. School in a couple of weeks, bud. Anyway, what I would challenge you to do is to think, or what I'm going to challenge myself tomorrow is to think a little bit more specifically about what am I enthusiastic about seeing her? Why am I enthusiastic to see her? And what makes me passionate about my friendship with her? So just challenging yourself a little bit. And that also provides focus in a positive direction on a daily basis, to be positive, to keep ourselves intentionally focused on things that matter. And it automatically shoves out the stuff that doesn't matter and is more negative. So it's when we fill our heads with more positivity, there's no room for the negative. So that's kind of the goal. So that would be a really easy thing that you guys can all do right when you wake up in the morning, when your alarm goes off and you get your wits about you. What am I enthusiastic about today? What excites me today? And focus on it. And that could change just your initial mindset for the day. Okay, so your assignment for the week. It's an easy one, but again, I don't want you to think from your head. I don't want you to overthink it. I just want you to brain dump. When I say brain dump, it's like getting a pen and you just write, you don't think about it. I want you to write an exhaustive list, and you don't have to spend like an hour on this, spend 10 minutes on it or 5 minutes, whatever, however long you want to, of the things that you love, some of your dreams and desires when you were at any point in your life, maybe they're bucket list items, maybe it's one of those things, or maybe it's things that matter now. Maybe they're things that matter to you, but it will be a later thing. Jot it all down. And so later on this week, let's say Wednesday, probably like this weekend, I'll do a post of how you can start paring it down. And so that your intentional focus on a day-to-day basis will be really clear and positive. And it's not going to bog you down. You're not going to feel as bogged down when we get to this. So it's kind of like a brain dump. So that's all I need for you guys to do this week, is just like a passionless things that are make you excited. Don't overthink it. Does that make sense to you guys? And so once we pare it down and we have it down to 3 to 5, then we're going to really start doing on some action-oriented type of things to get us really focusing on the things that matter the most to us. Does that make sense? Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Easy peasy. So questions about that or? Okay. Before we end the call, let's end on a positive note. One positive thing that you have engaged in over the last week, or something that happened, one thing positive that's happened for all of you. We'll each have a chance to share something.
I've been doing Morning Meltdown. That's been very positive for me.
Awesome. Which day are you on?
I finished 10.
10. Awesome.
Which I don't usually like. Yeah, I don't usually enjoy the stretch days, but I really liked this one.
Yeah.
It was good. I've really been liking the program.
It's not as traditional.
It's different.
Yeah. Yeah, I did day 10 yesterday because I'm on the same rotation you are, I think. My back was hurting so bad, so I switched a day around. I was like, I got to do stretch day today.
So was mine. I think the MMA one bothered my back. I can't quite put my finger on why, because I did the other program that she had with the other trainer. You know what I mean? A while, but it's been a while.
Right.
But my lower back was killing me.
Me too. I think it was the same thing. My back was really bad yesterday, so I did that stretch yesterday. So awesome. So you've been feeling really good about that. You've been really doing well with being able to get a routine in with your workouts. It's great. Yay. Nicole, Jen, one thing that you feel good about this week that's been positive for you?
I really enjoyed my vacation last week despite all of my inflexibility. It was like just good to like hang out and swim at the beach with the kids and enjoy their company, and just have time to do like nothing.
Absolutely. It allows you to unravel a little bit, which feels good.
It wasn't nearly enough time. I'm still neurotic. It's okay.
I bet. Sometimes vacations you get back and you just want to relax a little bit more.
Yeah.
Instead of get back
I
into
have the ground running always.
I know. That's tough. That's tough. How about you, Nicole?
Doing as far as resting and just hanging out, I guess.
Being pissy about resting.
Shut up. I did a test run this morning by accident to see how long it was going to take me. I thought I had a doctor's appointment, and so I got up, got ready, got myself over there, and I didn't even have to be there. It's tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, oh well, that was a good test run because now I know I need a backpack and not my normal bag, and now I need to leave a few extra minutes to get out to the car and arrange the stuff and get
Well,
in.
that's
So
actually a positive.
I felt like it was.
Absolutely. Sometimes you need to do those things, and you did it by accident. Well, good. I would say my thing, well, today I went and got a massage because my back's been bothering me, so that was definitely a positive.
Oh, nice.
I needed it bad though, and whatever. It's been bothering me, but silver lining, I went and got a massage. And that I would say for me, my mindset's in a good place with the school year starting. Next week we have, professional development days. So that's definitely a positive that I'm ready to get back to school. Sort of
Oh,
ready.
yeah.
Partially ready. My heart's starting to get there. So that's my positive for the week. So there you have it. So, all right. So you guys know the assignment. I challenge you to kind of first thing in the morning, think about one thing that's going to make you feel enthusiastic for the day. And then we'll get rolling next. I don't remember what day we have our next Zoom call. It might be Tuesday. But I'll remind everyone in the group if you're able to get on, or if you're not, that's okay too. And we'll move forward after that.
Cool.
All righty. Thanks, ladies, for getting on. Sorry I was on a few minutes late. Family stuff. So I will see you guys all in the group then.
All right. See ya.
Bye, guys. Bye, guys.
See you then.